below that replacement level. So in Malaysia, in 2020, during the time of the pandemic, although we all live at home, but of course affected by the disease, the count, or perhaps the number, is 1.7. So I've actually included here for you to see the statistics that is from the Department of Statistics Malaysia, DOSM. So how many live birth, nama-nama pun ada di sini, nama-nama yang trending. I know Mardia, perhaps for Malays, and how many live birth, but still when you count as a whole, we are only we are actually below the replacement rate. Okay. So infertility is very much a psychological burden. Even before I was married, I think of this, whether or not I would be able to get children. So what more for those who are married or who are wanting to get children but not able to. So this actually causes distress, which is much more prominent in females as opposed to males. So the negative social impacts are also there, particularly towards women. So there is stigma, there is violence, and it becomes a source for divorce, emotional stress, and of course all the other mental health issues which are related. So and this psychological impact actually upsets our hormonal balance. So in terms of prolactin, thyroid, so these are like hormones that like thyroid hormones, they are very much important for the development of the uterus, ovaries, placenta. So it causes upsets, especially in the gonadotropin production. So infertility, WHO has actually identified as a disease, and also I think in the US under the Convention of Rights, or perhaps in the world, so they recognized infertility as a disability simply because of impairment of function of parts of the body. So this will enable actually to allow women or couples to get fertility care, not so much to call them as disabled, but to actually facilitate or support them. So infertility in women was ranked the 5th highest serious global disability. So I think a lot of you have actually heard of assisted reproductive technologies. So just my students, and perhaps you also know about Louise Brown, the first test tube baby. She must be like 44 years old now, if I can count correctly. There, and I think she's working in a freight company, I read somewhere. So fertility treatment is complex. So Azanti will know this. Dr. Azanti, I actually do my sabbatical at our fertility clinic in medicine, College of Medicine. So Dr. Azanti, who's now with us, is like is the one who actually taught me about a few things in art, actually. So there are a lot of methods, treatment, but perhaps a lot of you know about IVF. And perhaps some of you know about intracytoplasmic sperm injection and the others as well. So these are like pictures, to actually introduce to you here. So I even managed to go into the OT with doctor, So some doctors there. So it's actually very scary, to see embryo transfer is being done and all that. Yeah. So if we are talking about the success of the fertility treatments, as simple as IVF, the percentages are not actually very high. So it's very much to do with oxidative stress. So even if you manipulate, as you are manipulating the gametes, the embryos, so ROS, the reactive species that are causing the oxidative stress, they can come from the embryo itself, they can come from the reagents that are being used, or the culture media, so basically the environment. So there is production of endogenous or exogenous factors affecting the success of the IVF. So what we know now is that it can lead to low cleavage rate, low blastocyst rate, and embryonic fragmentation, and of course relating to low fertilization rates and pregnancy loss. So even in studies with non-human mammals, oxidative stress coming from the sperm causes a significant reduction in fertilization rates and blastocyst rates. So that is why we resort to investigating or find out whether or not natural products can actually assist us. It's actually because natural products, they are also leading compounds for many of our drugs today. So perhaps there can be potential in some herbal or natural products that we can source. So it is a source of, or they are sources of natural antioxidants, and as I said, origin of many lead compounds, and WHO estimates that 80% of the world do rely on these agents, especially for primary healthcare, even before they go and see the doctors, or perhaps tertiary. So here it's very much to do with the compositions of, or perhaps what is in the plants that is actually contributing to their bioactivities. So I think throughout the years also people know that there are a lot of challenges in using natural products for drug discovery. So there is issue or there are issues with screening and perhaps also in the process of extraction, and what is very much difficult for us is the methods of standardization. For medications, we know how much to take for whichever condition, but for natural products, there needs to be some sort of standardization, or to come up with standardized formulas. So, but still, when we are talking about the potential of plant-based natural products, so as fertility regulators, so there have been a lot of in vivo and in vitro studies. So that there is potential, and perhaps it would be beneficial if these natural products were formulated and they can go into clinical trials, and we can especially evaluate safety and effect. That would be very important. So my research is usually looking at a few natural products like Nigella sativa and Eurycoma longifolia. Siapa tak tahu, tongkat ali, and of course looking at the safety and toxicity studies. So we are in the direction of actually formulating standardized extract. So some of my work has been facilitated by colleagues in a lot of other universities. So some formulations which are very much standardized have been used. So this is it. So I've also put a picture of hibiscus subtarifa because one of my students did actually use this in one of the research. So this is Tongkat Ali and Nigella sativa. So this is part of my studies. So a work done by one of my students in terms of salvaging the embryo from toxic paternal exposure. So the toxicity comes from using an anti-cancer agent, and then actually the defense we hope to come from Nigella sativa. So I'll take you through this hopefully very fast so that I don't bore you here. So this is just to show you the type of embryo, the embryo development. And just now I talked about blastocyst. This would be very good actually for embryo transfer. So in IVF, yeah. So we can see the development coming from actually from fertilization towards implantation. So when we talk about Nigella sativa, habatus sauda, so we are actually focusing on is anti-oxidative effects. So as we know that there can be an imbalance between generation of reactive oxygen species and scavenging activities in especially male gametes that can lead to germ cell damage. So we are looking for mechanisms for protection actually. So that's why in my research I used Nigella sativa and also its active component thymoquinone, which we think perhaps may have potential against cyclophosphamide. This is the anti-cancer agent which has induced toxicity. So here it's just for knowledge in terms of what we were looking at. So this is the grading that we do when we look at the embryo. So we look at the sizes of the blastomere. This is good, equal size blastomere, but this is also acceptable. And usually for grade 1 and grade 2, still acceptable for embryo transfer into the lady. But the grade 1, grade 3 and grade 4 are very much damaged. So this some of the work by our research team. So these are actually oocytes supplemented with Nigella sativa. So we are able to actually see the development of the oocytes and also check out the blastomeres. So this is actually what we do. And we can see the effects of thymoquinone, especially here, which may be very good against the effects of the anti-cancer drug cyclophosphamide. But I must say that thymoquinone is something that we bought from the, it's a standardized product. So it's very effective. So it can be sort of like more toxic than when we were using the habatus sauda, which we buy from the market. So these are like some of the other results that we get in terms of the grades of embryo. So again, when supplemented with TQ, so whether or not the oocytes are arrested, and these are like the effects that I mentioned just now. But these are like without TQ supplementation. So I'll just go through this very much quickly. Here we are looking at whether or not the embryos have fragmentations or not. And here is to do with 100 of thymoquinone, yeah? And the different cleavage sites that we can get. So a lot of studies on this actually. So we also look at the sperm heads. So this is one other interest whereby we look at the gametes, the sperm head, whether or not they are normal or abnormal. So we compare them with control, and then with the ones given the anti-cancer drug, and then also in conjunction with Nigella sativa extract or thymoquinone. So we got actually quite good effects with Nigella sativa extract. So, but with TQ, there seems to be a lot of abnormal sperm heads. So this is what I mean by sperm abnormalities. And so this is sort of like the categorization that we look out for. So like the leg hook, so it should have a hook. The normal sperm should have hooks. And banana like, I do not know why, mungkin jantung pisang ke, but sometimes you can see like a thicker mid piece of the sperm where we can have debris, or we can find some sperm folded upon itself. So these are examples from studies by my student. So you can see here C is sperm folded on itself. D we identified as the sperm with banana-like form, and then the amorphous just now, and the others. So here we use a dye to actually identify the sperm, whether or not they have been damaged in some way. So we used a toluidine blue. So I think, or perhaps some of you would know that the sperm head, it has a very compacted chromatin structure in the head. So the dye will not be able to actually go into the structure. So the unstain will tell you that is a normal sperm, but we can see that with the use of the anti-cancer drug, so there can be a lot of oxidative stress. So we get a lot of partially stained sperm head, meaning to say that the dye has now been able to enter into the sperm head. So then we check out whether or not Nigella sativa extract and also the active component thymoquinone are able to actually present some protective effects. So this is it. So it's very strenuous actually to the eye. So this has been the work of the research group. So this is what we actually see, and then we turn it into the graph previously. So we definitely have to look at sperm mortality. So this is also one aspect. So sperm has to be motile to be able to cause fertilization. And this is the abnormal morphology. Okay, so this is pertaining to just now, like hook, banana, amorphous, and all that. So here is the grading, percentage of mice, embryo, and whether or not they fragment. And of course, looking at the percentage of blastomeres, which I showed you just now. So that is some sampling of the work using Nigella sativa that my research team has actually done. And so there are a lot more actually. But then we move on to the champion herb, as Ministry of Agriculture call it. So we were able to get a sizable funding to actually join like 7 or 8 other universities to look at the effects of Tongkat Ali. So I was looking at the effects of Tongkat Ali in the female. So that's why we look at the effects in the estrous cycle. Estrous cycle, if for you who do not know, is actually equivalent to our menstrual cycle in humans. So we menstrual cycles in the ladies perhaps 28 days, but estrous cycle in the rats, because I use rats, it's actually only 4 days, 4 to 5 days. So how we were able to actually identify whether this is the pro-estrous stage, metastrous stage, or diestrous stage. So we look at the types of different cells present. So whether or not cells are nucleated, so that tells us it's pro-estrous. Yeah? And here we call it the conified cells, irregular shapes without nucleus, and then we can see a lot of leukocytes. But when there is predominant number of leukocytes, that indicates to us that is a diestrous stage. So it's actually this you can see whereby we can actually map out along with the production of the various hormones. So we were actually also measuring the impact on hormones. So it's a very difficult study because hormones stress, it can change very much so. So let's say kalau here we store the animals, perhaps in our animals place downstairs, even when opening the doors, and so they get very stressed out. So it can cause a lot of upsets on the hormones. So other measurements or parameters are also on the enzymes, aromatase, which is very much important in changing androgens to estrogen. So we actually induce these rats to have PCOS, which is polycystic ovarian syndrome. So we use estradiol valerate. So these are some of the tests that we do. So we were checking out the presence of this aromatase, and of course the effects on the ovaries. So these are cross sections of ovaries. We were checking out perhaps indications of ovulation, whereby whether or not there can be eggs to fertilize. So if we see like corpus luteum, so that is a very good indication that ovulation perhaps has taken place. So my students who have gone through or have actually sat down in reproductive system lectures will know this. So other studies will include teratogenic or morphology studies, X-rays, event. And okay, so I think basically those are the actual lab studies that my team does. So coming back to the use of natural products, so it has potential actually in improving performance, or perhaps performance in art or assisting. So perhaps to increase the fertility success. So most effects has to do with the antioxidative properties of natural products. But of course, there needs to be like deeper studies at molecular levels, looking at pathways. Here is perturbation of pathways, whether or not it can be disturbed. So that or perhaps those are required expansions of the research. So other research that I also do, I was very interested in looking at meal biomarkers. So it's actually to do with a woman to be able to, whether or not they are able to do self non-invasive detection to actually relate to their level of fertility on that day. So we actually use the flow assay and also taking pictures using RGB color. So this work has been published so in this journal. So it's actually a quantitative method using paper-based detection. So perhaps in future years, so perhaps we can have something of the equivalent for meals as well. So other studies, this one is one that I co-supervise with Dr. Norazlina, our PhD student, Abdullahi Mawaida. So he does his field work in Zamfara of Nigeria. So he was able to actually do interventions, gather ketu kampung, also looking at maternal mortality. I think if you've read or perhaps in the literature, that in some parts of the world, in developing countries, maternal mortality is high. And of course, it has to do with young girls being married very early on, and there's no awareness, there's no facilities and all that. So this is also one work that is actually very close to my heart now, because it has to do with the global impact of the maternal global impact of maternal mortality through pregnancy and all that. So okay, so now I think basically I've given you just a flavor or perhaps an overview of what I actually do, but to pique your interest or perhaps to look into something much more relevant to all of us is the matter of overpopulation. So I do not know whether you are aware of this, or we just go day in, day out with our work, but it's actually affecting the whole world. So I hope with what I will actually mention or see afterwards. After this, I hope it'll initiate discussions and it will create awareness amongst us. So here I will, most of the time I will start with glossary. So what is infertility, total fertility rate, this one I've mentioned just now, birth rates, and also population growth rate. There are other types of definitions like crude birth rate, like how many live births per 1,000 in the population. So there are definitions in the UN, so some people do not agree. So total population and all that. So it's very much interesting to read. So I'm not sure whether you've seen these images. So these images are not mine, but I think perhaps a lot of us have seen this. I should have put a picture of me and my family in Genting waiting for the gondola during school holidays. So many people. Yeah. So in one crowded place. So I kept thinking of my lecture today. Yeah. I think this is for you who do not know. Yeah? So we have this much people, perhaps around this era, this time, yeah? And how it gets to 250 million just in 1,000 years. Yeah? But we took like a long time, actually, like 800 more years to get to 1 billion. But then the population growth goes into overdrive. So that is why people start thinking of overpopulation apocalypse, whether or not we should go to Mars. So it has benefited a lot of enthusiasts or movie makers, yeah, producers. Yeah, so that's why we see a lot of science movies. Yeah, coming up. Yeah? So this one I took just now at 12 p.m. Yeah, so this is the world population clock. Yeah? So we are now at 7 billion. Yeah? And reaching to 8 billion in no matter of time. So this number at the end here is actually like each second there is a baby born in the world. Yeah? Here up until July, the estimates are here. Yeah? So these are like the 10 most populous country because of the breadth of their population. So you can see here 1 billion belongs to China and 1 billion or more, and also India, yeah? And all that. Yeah? Okay, so here is the density up until 2022. So you can see a rise peaking here, extreme peak here in following the Industrial Revolution. Yeah? So a lot of countries actually also affected. All right. But total fertility rate is decreasing. So this is the UN projections from 1950 up until 2099. Yeah. So we are going below the replacement level actually. Yeah. So a lot of emphasis has been on the total population rate. People are only talking about overpopulation, but not so much of the total fertility rate. Yeah? So for Malaysia, this is data that we have up until July here. So we have this much people in our country. So perhaps like 30 million is belongs to the citizens, 3 perhaps non-citizens. So this is how many people per square meter on average. And actually males per 100 females is this much. So this is not actually so much imbalance, but in the university, perhaps yes. Children per women, perhaps in 2022, this is what we are hoping, 1.8. So the population for our senior citizens policy, when 50% of us are more than 60 years old, that we consider that we have an aging population. So for Malaysia, we are expecting it to be at 15.3 at 2030. So that is the estimations. So if we are talking about overpopulation, I cannot actually not talk about Paul Ehrlich. Yeah? So if you're interested, so there are books by him. Yeah? So some people call him as irrepressible doomster. So the ones that advocate doomsday. I do not know whether you all remember bila kita nak masuk millennial in 2000, orang takut kiamat, something like that. So it's actually propagated this fear of overpopulation. Has actually come from perhaps people like this, Dr. PROFESSORIAL, who talks and advocates, or perhaps who talks about overpopulation since the early 70s, or 60s. So he talks about consequences of population growth and limited resources. But now he talks about area overpopulation because a lot of his predictions have not come true. In 1970, he said millions of people will die because of starvation. And then he has actually projected it to be 1980 now. At that time. A lot of the predictions have not come true. So now he talks about area overpopulation. He talks about the impact. He focuses a lot on the technology or anything that we can do in agriculture, because he talks about severe famine, and of course spread of disease and social unrest, and toxification in the entire planet. So his advocacy comes in various forms, perhaps to actually ask people to not have so many children. He himself has, I think, had vasectomy. He only has one child, Louise Marie. So that he proposed that perhaps people do not have children, so many children. And if all else fails, elimination of tax benefits for having additional children. So elements of penalties there. And of course, he very much advocates the use of birth control and abortion. But now he's actually more into making disturbed areas much more hospitable in biodiversity. Okay, so there are a lot of environmental activists who also jumps on the bandwagon, like Alexandra Paul. So also talking about overpopulation, impact on the nature, rainforest, and all that. And then of course, as an environmental activists, they must talk about resources, and of course, again, unrest, competition for jobs. So she does a lot of work in women empowerment and all that. Okay? And also, Professor Emeritus Jorgen Randers. Here, he thinks, or he was speaking in 2014, that the world will perhaps reach 8 billion in 2040 and will peak and all that. So we are very much reaching that number. And he talks a lot about working class burden, whereby the elderly are still present, and the younger ones are now taking care of the elderly. So that's why some countries have moved up to push up the retirement age. Now the ones who are still working, the young old, and also taking care of the old. That is most of the impact that he was talking about. He advocates more families. That is Jorgen Randers. And I think you all must know him, Sir David Attenborough. So I think I was one of those who would sit in front of the TV and watch Planet Earth. If I'm not mistaken, there are a lot of episodes. So he's a broadcaster, biologist, natural historian. his brother is Richard Attenborough, who actually died, the actor in Jurassic Park. So he also talks about overpopulation. And the impact on space resources, carbon emission. I think you can see here, this was actually what is presented in his talk and the address to the world leaders in 2021. So this is actually to do with carbon monoxide levels in the world. So parts per million. So in 2021 or 2020 is 400 and 2021 is 414. So it is predicted or estimated that when it reaches 450 parts per million, the temperature of the world due to the greenhouse impact will increase very rapidly. So like 2 degrees Celsius on average. And he definitely advocates contraception and creation of awareness, and here he talks about women emancipation and of course advocate decreased birth rate. Okay, so I've just put some charts for you to see. So in Malaysia, we are actually masih okay, so masih kupah like that, so but here in Japan, you get upside down demographic. So you can see the elderly is increasing in terms of number as opposed to the young ones because of reduced birth rates. So we are still okay, and I've checked also for the different the majority major ethnics in our country: Malays, Chinese, Indians. There are no significant difference. So here, of course, we start to think of sustainable growth, whether or not we can sustain. We have the sustainable ability, but at the same time, if we have growth, has it become an oxymoron? So for those of you who are not really sure what oxymoron means, oxymoron is like contradictory terms which is used for us to explain things like big baby. It's a baby, but it's big. Like original copy. It's a copy, but it's original. What else? Like open secret. So it's secret, but it's open. And then I think one of the oxymorons very famous in UIA also is elective wajib. I think we've talked about this very frequently, even in my department. Macam mana ni elective tapi wajib? So very much related to the academic office, Prof. Faris. Okay. So I could not talk about COVID pandemic. So when we think about overpopulation in relation to COVID pandemic, so of course the disease, the pandemic, has very much to do with the exponential growth of population. So this is the flip side. This is to do with overpopulation, and of course the urbanization, the pursuit also to go and look out for natural resources to help us perhaps in the medical front. So there is especially contact with animals in their natural habitat. So there can be zoonotic transfer. And then of course some people migrate cross-border looking for better prospects in terms of jobs. And perhaps even to evade disasters or climate change. And people are talking about the loss of biodiversity as well. So for instance, in the case of the West Nile virus that causes encephalitis, here due to low biodiversity of the avian flock. So there is like a dominant avian or bird species that will actually amplify the virus. That sort of thing in relation to pandemics actually. And of course, I think you all remember the market in Wuhan in terms of overcrowded live animal markets, but I don't think they have identified whether or not that's or whatnot is causing COVID. So they are still speaking about it. Okay, so is the world really overpopulated? I think some say, or perhaps Elon Musk says, perhaps you would think that the world is overpopulated because you live in the cities. Macam saya dekat Genting hari tu, yes, I do feel that the world cannot sustain anymore. But macam mana if you're living in non-populated areas, it's not an issue actually. I must talk about Elon Musk because in the matter of overpopulation, I could not find anybody else who or perhaps people are starting to actually talk about his ideas, but he is saying that it's not the issue of having so many people in the world, because it's perhaps to do with your fear, which comes from what people are saying from the 1960s and so on. But he's much more looking at population collapse. So people are under the false impression of too many people on Earth, and then we stop pregnancy, like in China. In China, I think one-child policy is from the 1980s. If I'm not mistaken, until the 2016, only then they allow for 2 children. And if I'm not mistaken, in May 2021, then they allow for 3 children because they know that their population is decreasing. So this is actually what Elon Musk is saying is the biggest threat to human civilization. So a lot of us know he is the CEO, founder of SpaceX, the company that sends people to the ISS, space station, and also looking at possibilities. I do not know what he's checking in Mars. And also Tesla, the electric auto. Here he is very much concerned about the upside down demographic that I was mentioning just now. So there can be population collapse, it says, when the young needs to support the old. So this is very much unstable. So there are a lot of solutions that he has proposed. Especially the use of synthetic mRNA, perhaps anti-aging stuff, items or substance. And also, of course, he advocates for sustainable energy, the use of solar batteries, nuclear power. Nuclear power use water, and the steam can actually cause the turbines to move and generate electricity and all that. So this is Elon Musk, I think the richest man on earth. Okay, so let's have a look at population collapse. Here, this is now what people are starting to realize. So when there is overpopulation, and then people try to advocate low birth, reduction of birth rate, but it has very much to do with the increase and improvement in education for women, and the greater access for contraception. So what we are now seeing is population implosion instead of explosion, the one which we predicted right from before. So we have that upside down demography, elderly cared by younger generations, not enough workers, and this will cause a collapse. We have mental health decline of the young ones, especially financial and economic consequences. So I've put here some of the examples whereby this is an issue. So especially Japan, which I mentioned just now, and China. Will decline to just this much million from 1,400 million. Italy as well. So there are a lot of other countries also going to experience this as well. Okay, so I think I must talk about this a little bit. Here there are different opinions actually. When people are advocating family planning, contraception. Different opinions I can see by Muslim scholars regarding family planning, but perhaps it's okay in terms of poverty. But always we say sustenance is from Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. But in the Quran, I think family planning is not prohibited, but of course abortion is. So there are actually rulings coming from the National Council for Islamic Religious Affairs. Obviously, sterilization of a man and women is prohibited, but there are like permissions granted because to do with health or perhaps some other issues. So some are permissible. So when we talk about the Muslim population accepting all these ideas from the Western world and all that, and also here I perhaps would like to highlight to you. So perhaps some of you think of this also. This is to do with perception of that the Muslim people, they are the ones who are overpopulated. So this may not be necessarily true, but the impact is very much reliable, especially towards Muslim minorities, Muslim refugees. So there is that stigma. I think it's not true. I've read in Indonesia during the time of Pak Suharto in the 1960s to the 1990s, whereby there are a lot of improvement to women's education and there is access to contraception. So the fertility rate, the birth rate, is all reduced. So there is it's sort of like baseless when people think of the Muslims who are actually overpopulating the world. And now actually in regions of Indonesia, the Christian majority provinces are much more higher in terms of birth rate as opposed to the Muslim majority. So some points for you to actually think about. Okay, so this would be the proposals that in relation to what we have talked about. So I would advocate for all this in terms of fertility research because it's to do with fitra. So to open up fertility centers. So I do not know what happens to some fertility centers, even in IIUM, whether or not you are going to remain open. And for RPE's fertility center in Kuantan, I'm not sure. But it's to do with fikra, good mental health, humans have rights to have children. And of course, I advocate for fertility care and preservation, so equitable access. And I think it's quite rare that the governments prioritize diagnosis and treatment for infertility. Tak ada pun dalam kita punya health coverage yang cover for this. So perhaps some package. And of course, on the much more broader aspect is exploration of alternatives and sustainable consumption, proper planning of towns and rural areas, to improve on the built environment, to explore new areas. So hopefully this built environment can be much more sustainable, one that will think about flexibility, longevity, and consider climate risk. And of course, this needs a lot of technical procedures and a lot of involvement politically, and of course, awareness and installation of habit. Okay, so I think if we are looking at this SDGs, what I've been talking about will actually touch on all the SDGs. But if you are just looking at the sustainable built environment, perhaps look at 11, look at 7, look at 13, look at 15. And of course, all the others which are related. So basically that's to do with overpopulation. So my other works and interests, of course, I do a lot of toxicity studies. So here we are looking at whether or not we can use scales from tilapia to turn it into materials. Materials or matrix for contact lenses and all that. So we have to start with allergic studies. So this one I did with Husna, and MB Perak dulu. So I've written along with my colleagues to EPF. On things related with nutrition. So this is also one of my other interests in terms of food choice. And here in the EPF document, we talked about when you get old, you makan seorang ke, and in terms of nutrition, so you lose your partner, and are you getting the right nutrition and all that? So and I also collaborate. So yang ini susah sedikit untuk saya because it's to do with philosophy, but I join all these projects so that I can also learn. With Dr. Ibrahim Shoga, a very famous lecturer here in Kuantan campus and also in Bomba, obviously. So we wrote a paper in engineering journal. This is so difficult for me to grasp, but I'm learning about principles in engineering combined with biomedical, so normative ethics. And then benda yang selalu Prof. Shukran mentioned, epistemology, the origin of knowledge. I am also actually supervising with Dr. Ibrahim Shoga, a master student who is doing work on systems thinking, who looks at a problem as a whole. So taking the holistic approach. Some of these aspects it takes a long time for me to learn, but we learn every day. So other times I'm almost always auditing. I'm doing work for MQA, and I'm almost always speaking to especially young ones, either in my own department, kuliah, or perhaps other universities as well, talking about how to construct assessments, how to actually align with your vision and missions and all that. So this has been my other passion, which I've done for a long time actually. So I think I've reached towards the end of my presentation. So some pictures, especially my students, my research team. So this is Jaiza, who's now doing PhD in pharmacology at Oxford. So she got the royal sponsorship. Also Nadia, Malina, Shazana, Raihan, Shamim, and all that. So Sahira. So I think quite a number of them are also in Switzerland, living with their husbands as well. So and I've been privileged in this kuliah actually throughout my journey here in IIUM to be able to head the council. So and also to actually lead some projects. So these are things that we do at the kuliah. So thank you to all my colleagues who have worked hard for this. So very happy to have been a part of these projects. So tak tahulah our Gaharu ni macam mana today. But I think Prof. Asma also has visited recently our My Ulang Garden. So, and of course, not forgetting my family, arwah ayah saya, mother, and my husband and children. So I have 6 children, 3 boys and 3 girls. So all very much grown up. So like Prof. Ideal mentioned, memang saya yang paling tua sekali dekat kuliah ni. So they have been my avid supporters. So syukur alhamdulillah to Allah Almighty. So I must thank Sida, Izzuddin, Fuad, Azanti, the organizing for this committee for this professorial talk. So I hope I've not actually caused you undue stress or whatever. Preparing this, and of course my colleagues in the department, and of course Prof. Ideal, the kuliah, and IIUM throughout, and my beloved students and researchers throughout the years. And of course, while making these presentations, I've been using external image and resources. So thank you very much to everyone. So I think you can connect with me in my email. So terima kasih banyak-banyak. Assalamualaikum.
Thank you very much, Professor Dr. Suzana, for the insightful sharing and concerns, loads of interesting facts. And one of the interesting facts will be Malaysia gradually move towards an aged nation. Malaysia would become an aging society by 2030 when 50% of its population turn to 60 and above. Distinguished guests, brothers and sisters, and also Professor Dr. Suzana, our Honorable Rector, Professor Tan Sri Dr. Zulkifli bin Abdul Razak, joined us during the presentation. On behalf of CAS, we greatly appreciate the time Professor Tan Sri took out of his busy schedule to join this event. However, he had to leave for another meeting. We will proceed with the Q&A session. I would like to read a question from Dr. Azanti. 2 questions from Dr. Azanti to Professor Suzana. The first one will be, what is your opinion for condition of both husband and wife showed a normal fertility investigation but still cannot conceive, unexplained infertility? And number 2, do you suggest for patient seek fertility treatment to discontinue in order to overcome the overpopulation?
Semula, the first one will be what would be the conditions for the couple?
Yeah, show a normal fertility investigation but still cannot conceive.
Conditions as in, perhaps Azanti, you would like to actually ask me or clarify your question? I know you're here. You're one of the organizing committee.
Like both husband. Both husband and wife like cannot conceive, normal investment is normal.
Putus-putus,
But
Zanti.
still not get pregnant. Even though they go for fertility treatment, they do the investigation, but they cannot get pregnant. It is called in unexplained infertility.
So your question would be?
Probably faham ke soalan?
Your question would be, what can we recommend for them to do?
What is your opinion for this kind of patient?
Definitely, if a couple could not or are not able to actually get children even after seeking fertility treatment, there are a lot of other ways, like I said, whereby you can live fuller lives with adoption or perhaps kalau macam kita, we don't do surrogate kan ya, but that would be what we would recommend, because when you're taking care of anak kan ya, so you're able to actually live fuller lives, much more meaningful. Kita duduk dekat dunia ni tak lama, so I think orang yang paling tua pun just 119 ke who just died Kani Tanaka in Japan kan ya. So what is more important is to lead meaningful lives. Yeah? Apa lagi, Azanti? The next question will be whether or not we should discontinue fertility treatment.
Yes.
I think
a patient that want to seek for the population.
I will not, I will be on the side that will promote fertility treatment, research in whatever ways. Because I think throughout your years in the fertility center, you have seen people so happy to actually be able to actually conceive and become pregnant, and you have helped a lot of couples to achieve that. So I do not think it should be continued. So I do know, or perhaps I do not know how many fertility centers are in the country. A lot of it are like being dominated by the TMC Fertility Center. Dr. Murad from the clinic, if you remember, yeah. Dr. Murad, who used to be here, yeah. So they are doing very good work. I do not think fertility care should be excluded, and I mean should be discontinued. But I think the ones who come and seek fertility treatment, fertility care, the percentage is very much smaller than the ones who actually really need the fertility treatment, because it's something macam perasaan segan tu nak seek fertility treatment. I think it's a problem. I do not think people give priority to this. So that's why we're seeing couples who wait and wait for many years, for decades, without seeking fertility treatment. So I think you would agree with me, lah. Yeah, Zanti?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Prof.
Thank you for the questions.
Thank you very much, Dr. Zanti. Any question? I'm just wondering, Prof, what would be the most depressing moments in your research life?
What would be the most depressing moments?
Yeah, research that, and how you overcome it. Is there any
Kalau saya, I do a lot of animal studies, so it's not so easy because the variability is very high. So like what I perhaps mentioned when presenting my research just now. So other than that, of course, research requires money. I think even Prof. Tahir in his professorial talk, also resources, we need resources. So that could be depressing. Also, But of course, when we do research, we have that obligation to actually communicate this and perhaps in the end commercialize. Yeah, so I would very much like to expand things. Other than that, my students and researchers have all worked hard. So there's actually nothing depressing about actually increasing human capital. That's what we as academics should strive for. Benda-benda lain tak adalah, tak ada depressing. Okay.
Alright, thank you very much, Prof. Is there any questions in the chat box, or anybody would like to directly ask a question to Professor Suna? You may allow to switch on your microphone. Hey, there's no question for you, Professor Susanna. Thank you very much.
I hope people have understood, and perhaps through my talk have in some ways increased their awareness towards this. And so we go to work, go to college, university, day in, day out, and we don't think about this. Yeah? So the matter of overpopulation, I think is a very long-term punya, perhaps jauh ke depan. We are not able to see the impact so much. But for future generations, perhaps it becomes an issue, especially towards mental health, financial, economical, even to the nation as a whole. So this is what we are trying to advocate. So hopefully we are not like living in fear of overpopulation. Yes, I do think the world can sustain the number of humans many times over. But we have to actually change our perceptions, our habit. Yeah, so it's good with Tan Sri coming on board in IIUM, so we get to know or we speak more about SDGs, the UN, the living together and all that. So that is something that we should all join in and support. So hopefully everyone has benefited from what little knowledge that I have presented. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Sana, for
Again.
Oh, yes, Prof. Aidil.
Not a question now, but basically just maybe I would like to congratulate Prof. Susanna on very interesting talk on this topic. And from what I heard from your about 1 hour plus professional talk, I can see that there are many opportunities for further research, especially collaboration, even not only within the kuliah, but also with the other kuliah as well. Like you mentioned, in terms of the impacts of the fertility towards economy. And in fact, I was thinking about, if we have a lot of population, what is actually the impact in terms of housing itself. So there are a lot of other potential collaboration, not only within the kuliah as well as the other kuliah as well. And even within the kuliah, I also thinking about, optometry, audiology, whenever, we have, let's say, increased number of population and increase of aging population, for example, how it actually influence the increased numbers of the prevalence of hearing impairment, for example, or eye disease, for example, which I think we must have some sort of a collaborative effort to actually looking into that particular aspect, especially when Dr. Fuad mentioned just now about the increased number of the aging population. So indirectly, there are a lot of intervention that we need to do for that particular population. And again, I would like to congratulate Professor Zana for very interesting professional talk. And that's all. Thank you. Assalamualaikum.
Thank you, Prof.
Thank you very much, Professor Aidil. Okay, we have come to the end of this event, but before that, we will proceed with the photography session. I would like to invite everyone to switch on your camera and obviously smile.
Okay, we start with page 1. Okay, ready, everyone? 1, 2, 3, smile. Okay, now we move to page 2. 1, 2, 3, smile. We move to the last page. 1, 2, 3, smile. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sida.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much, Prof. Haris.
Okay, Prof. Zana, thank you very much.
Thank
I
you.
just what strike me is maybe there are a lot of information maybe for awareness, and maybe I always believe that prevention is better, right? So maybe at the early slide you're talking about the causes and maybe how to prevent. I mean the problem rather than to treat it later. So I think maybe we have to do something. So thank you, Prof.
Thank you, Prof.
So we have come to the end of this event. We hope that you have gained a lot of benefits and take-home messages from this session. On behalf of CAS, I would like to thank each of you for being here. On behalf of the organizing committee, I would like to apologize of any shortcomings throughout the event. All the good things come from Allah SWT, and all the shortcomings come from our own weaknesses. We shall end with the recitations of Tasbih Kafara and Suratul As. Thank you very much, everybody. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
Thank you, Prof. Haris.
Okay, thank